Thank you for joining us. My name is Barry Erickson, and I'm Community Engagement Coordinator at Wheaton Public Library. Tonight, as part of Money Smart Week, we are proud to bring you this presentation on choosing the right financial planner. Our presenters tonight are Nick Ryland and Tim Kuntz, owners and partners at Vantage Point Financial in Lisle, Illinois. Together, they have upwards of 25 years of experience in financial planning with a focus on holistic planning, as fiduciaries, ethics, and transparency are foundational elements of their firm. They work with individuals and families from all walks of life. A comprehensive household CFO approach to coordinating finances was once only reserved for the ultra-wealthy. It is one of their missions to bring this level of service to all people throughout the community. Everyone deserves a financial plan that works for them now and through the rest of their lives. Today, they will discuss the value of a financial planner, how you can be sure the financial professionals in your life actually have your best interests in mind, and educate you on some powerful questions to bring to your current or prospective advisor. A free consultation will be offered following this presentation to anyone who wants one. This is the first step in making a commitment to a better retirement where you can be assured you are being taken care of in the very best way. Your attendance here tonight shows you are taking the steps towards having a stress-free financial retirement. Whether with Nick and Tim or not, you have made a good choice just by being here. So with that, I'll turn the screen over to you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Barry. Let me be sure that I can get my screen up here. Nick, if you could give me a thumbs up that you see the right screen. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and thank you to the Wheaton Public Library for inviting us to be a part of your Money Smart series. Our presentation tonight should last right around 45 minutes, and like Barry said, we'll save some time at the end for questions, so please stick around for that. Let's jump right in with some statistics. So in 2020, FINRA, a regulatory agency overseeing our industry, ordered $25.2 million in restitution paid to investors who were, wronged or defrauded by advisors. And in 2020, over 600 advisors were either barred or suspended from providing financial advice. Just a couple years before that, there was a study done by Harvard, and it was noted that 7% of the 600,000 plus advisors in our country have records of misconduct. And at firms with big names like Oppenheimer, Wells Fargo, and UBS, 15 to 20% of their advisors had records of misconduct or disclosure events. These numbers are striking, and it doesn't really lend any confidence to being able to find a really good professional to have in your court to help with important financial matters. But the good news is that these happenings of misconduct, advisor barrings, have all been on the decline since 2016. The bad news is that they do still happen. The fact that these stats even exist is the biggest problem in our eyes. But clearly not all advisors are this bad. In fact, 93% of advisors don't have this kind of record. A higher probability than falling victim to a fraudster is that you have an advisor who isn't that great. And honestly, your chances of success with an advisor that isn't that great is typically still greater than with an advisor who maybe is defrauding you. So, excuse me. So these days, good advice is definitely harder to come by than ever before. I feel very fortunate that we get to play a role in helping our clients achieve some of their most important goals. Over my life so far, I can remember several key things that helped push me to become a financial planner. One idea in particular is what motivated me firmly to plant my feet in this profession. It wasn't just the times that I paid my family's utility bills with a small income from my first jobs, or when I worked full time to support myself and pay my way through college. No, it was when I realized how truly difficult it is to find trustworthy people in this industry. I originally chose a career in finance because I wanted to give my future family a more fruitful life than I had. I went from banking to working for several different advisors and firms, only to realize that none of them were really serving interests other than their own. I was a teller at one of the biggest banks in the United States, and I was taught to aggressively push products and services to unsophisticated customers who didn't have a basis of knowledge to make decisions about these things. And if we hit our goals, the entire staff stood to get bonuses. Now, as an experienced planner and advisor, I can confidently say that these products and services were actually helpful to these customers less than 20% of the time. And to be clear, we were 18 to 22-year-olds with no credentials, no industry experience, and being enticed with financial gain. How likely do you think it is that an 18-year-old is going to push that product on somebody if they stand to benefit from it financially? Working with the advisors was different, but no better ethically. People were trusting them with even more money than at the bank. But I noticed a trend of these advisors creating an illusion that they had a special formula to help their clients. But really, there was no special formula. They were providing the most basic investment advice and selling it as at a premium as a financial plan. And behind the scenes, the biggest conversation was about how they could increase their income, even if it meant sacrificing client service for their own gain. Admittedly, after peeking behind these curtains, I considered changing careers. But since then, I've been determined to help our community avoid these situations and chart a course to a confident retirement with a good accountability partner on their side. We may live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, but accumulating enough assets for retirement and all of your most important goals takes hard work, it takes discipline, and what I found out, it takes a good team. Choosing the right planner or advisor to help you, no matter what stage you're at in life, could be one of the most important life decisions you ever make. You deserve financial professionals with your best interest in mind. We look forward tonight to giving you a foundation of advice and principles and really helpful tips to weed out the good advisors from the bad. I'm Tim Kuntz, co-founder and financial advisor of Vantage Point Financial. Thanks again, Barry, for that great introduction. My partner, Nick Rowell, and I are really passionate about educating our community on important financial topics. Maybe we've even met some of you before. Today, we bring diverse real-world experience as advisors to help guide you on the education we have planned for you tonight.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you, Barry, for the great introduction tonight. So today's workshop is a two-part series. We've got a workshop tonight that obviously you're attending and learning a lot of great information, but it's going to be really general, giving you some information to arm yourself and help you make better decisions. The second part is a complimentary strategy session with our team here at Vantage Point, where we're donating an hour of our time to meet with each of you individually and your spouse, if you have one, to talk about your situation. Maybe you need help evaluating an advisor. Maybe it's a current advisor. Maybe someone new you're looking to work with. We'd be happy to help with that. Maybe you have questions about investing or estate planning or Social Security or Medicare or taxes. You name it. You can bring all those questions to us, and we're happy to help. And there's no commitment, no requirement from you, and no cost. So let's jump into this. Why have a planner or advisor at all? Well, obviously, we've been through a lot the last 2 years, and we know that this pandemic won't be the last big major global event that could impact your finances or your financial plan. So we know that things are complex. We don't know exactly what the next big issue will be financially or health-wise or another war. I mean, you name it. There's so many uncertainties out there, but we do know that finances and proper financial planning and saving for retirement are complex. And just talking about a few of the things that are out there right now, inflation. You know, we got spoiled for the last 20 years where there was little or no inflation. And now we're looking at 7-8% a year and going up. I think the number we saw today that came out was 8.5% is where we're trending so far this year. We have cryptocurrency, a new global currency that could impact the economy. It's been around actually more than a decade, but has really gained steam over the last couple of years. There's a lot of talk of changes to the tax code. A lot of things coming out of Washington that they want to raise tax rates. The government has spent over $30 trillion to the negative. That's a massive amount of debt that we have to pay back as taxpayers. It's just a math equation that we're going to have to pay more in taxes over time. And we know that there's various legislation that'll go with those tax code changes, some good, some bad, but we need to manage that and properly adjust our financial plans so that we get the highest probability of success over time. And that's really our goal as financial planners, is to help our clients have the highest probability of success. So something we like to talk about in our practice is that you don't know what you don't know. And I carry that through my personal life, not just as a financial planner, but really anything that I do. If there's a professional that can help me, I want to uncover that. I want to meet that person or that group or that company. A really good kind of simple example is 5 years ago, my wife and I built a new house. Once the house was done and we were at our wits' end with the budget and everything else, we had a yard that was all dirt and we needed to do landscaping and grow some grass. So we decided to seed the grass. We had done some research and understood that you get a better lawn long-term if you seed. And the good thing is that's a little bit cheaper. But we have a pretty large yard. So we got 3 estimates and went with the guy with the lowest estimate. One-man shop, was dying for business. And I felt like, you know what, he seems to know what he's doing. And how hard is it? You're just putting down seed in the yard. Well, he started seeding the entire yard in June when the weather was about 95 degrees. And little did I know until after the fact that that's really probably the worst time to start seeding your yard. Maybe the winter would be the worst. I think that summer we had a lot more weeds than grass. And my wife and I were obsessed with pulling weeds and crabgrass. And then later that summer, I was adding more seed and watering and trying to figure out what was right and really flying by the seat of my pants. Next spring, I thought, all right, new spring, I'm going to seed. I'm going to put down fertilizer, the crabgrass pre-emergent. I'm going to tackle this thing. Well, after doing all of that, a few days after fertilizing, I saw that I over-fertilized, and now I had brown dead marks all over my yard. So I spent that entire summer trying to repair all those dead spots. And by the end of that season, I said, this is crazy. It's 2 years into this. Our yard looks like garbage. I'm tired. I don't want to research this anymore. I don't want to spend more money on it with a dead end. So we sought out help and we hired a company after doing some research. They came out and did a full analysis of our yard. And the guy was asking me questions like, did you know you should be aerating twice a year on a new lawn and overseeding twice a year? And did you know that you can put fertilizer and different chemicals on your yard that aren't harmful to the environment or your family or your pets? And I thought, wow, I really didn't know that. I was putting all these chemicals down and not realizing the ramifications. And then he asked me about grubs. I said, I've heard of grubs, but I don't know anything about it. And he said, well, your neighbor down the road, that's why their lawn is destroyed. Grubs attacked. So there's so many things that I didn't know about and I wasn't an expert. So we hired them. And within weeks, you could see the difference. And now 3 years later, we have a beautiful lawn. I don't spend any time researching it anymore. I don't pull my hair out, sweating in the backyard, trying to figure out what I'm doing. These professionals helped me and they gave back so much time that I can spend with my wife, my kids, and enjoying our house and our lawn. So I realize that managing finances is very different than managing your lawn, but it's the idea of finding a good professional and making sure you've got a good one that can really help you and put you in a better position so that you can do the things that you love, whether it's spending time with your family, with your grandkids, traveling, you name it.
I think we need to change our tagline to avoid retirement crabgrass.
I like it. Tim, can you see my video? I'm only seeing you.
I can see your video, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So didn't want it to look like Tim was just talking without moving his mouth. So there's a lot of data here on this next slide, and it's about how many people work with financial advisors or financial planners. So the pie chart over here is interesting. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that gray spot at the top, 7% of people don't know if they work with a financial advisor. My answer to you, or my recommendation is, you probably don't work with one if you don't know. Maybe you have a name on a statement for something you bought years ago, but if that financial planner or advisor isn't reaching out to you, they're not really working for you. So in 2021, 38% of Americans worked with a financial advisor. That was up from 29% pre-pandemic. So that's a big jump. And we do see that when there's major events, like if we go back to 2008 and the financial crisis. After that, a lot more people started working with advisors because they want to avoid these massive downturns or negative events, but it's still only 38%. And then the next section talks about 26% of Americans say their most trusted financial or most trusted source for financial advice is a financial advisor. So wait a minute, if 38% have advisors, but only 26% trust their advisor, that's a third that don't trust the advisor that they have. Now that's an issue. And I wonder why that is. You know, is it the relationship? Is it the type of advisor? Is it not clear what's provided and what's not? I'm not quite sure. But then also, you know, we went up this past year from 20%, or I'm sorry, we went down from 30% to 20% saying that they trust themselves as the primary source for financial advice. So 20% of Americans trust themselves first and foremost for getting financial advice. Now that's kind of scary. It's like saying 20% of heart patients trust themselves over their cardiologist. I would say heart surgery is very complex, as is financial planning. And so we need more professionals that can help people that are seeking that advice. So kind of comparing if you want to do this on yourself or do it yourself or getting professional advice. And I would say this first bullet point is really the biggest takeaway of this entire presentation, is that there have been studies from Fidelity and Vanguard, a lot of big firms out there have done this over the years to try to quantify the value that a financial planner advisor provides their clients. And that's as a whole. So from the lowest end that are doing very little to the very high end that are doing very complex planning, they average that an advisor, a professional, adds 1.5% to 4% of return per year to a portfolio. Now that's astounding. There's many people out there that would be happy with a 5% return. And if you can add another 1.5% to 4% on top of that with professional advice, that's huge. And now comparing this to my lawn situation, now hiring that lawn company, that's outstanding. You know, I'm putting money in there, I'm getting a great lawn, I get more time back with my family, but I'm not going to get money back out of that. Whereas when you invest money and you hire a financial planner to help you reduce taxes, grow your assets, coordinate your entire life, and that fee that you pay them or that cost is going to return that to you in a positive return of 1.5% to 4%. That's a win-win across the board. So getting professional advice, getting professional help can increase your situation rather than people look at it as a cost, and they're going to have less if they hire someone. And that's only if they're the worst of the worst. So even the most average financial planner can add value to your situation. But it's not just about money management. It's about your goals, your concerns. What do you want to do in life? What do you want to do in retirement? Do you want to travel? Do you want to pick up hobbies? Do you want to volunteer? Do you want to spend more time with the grandkids? All these things are extremely important. And then those good things are the fun things to talk about. But on the other side, what are the negatives? What are the things that keep you up at night? Is it market volatility? Is it inflation? Is it the war in Ukraine? Is it that you're going to run out of money when you're 85 if you don't manage this properly? All those things are important and they need to be taken into account when building your financial plan. It's not just about maximizing that return, but it's about living your life with dignity and confidence throughout retirement.
As people journey through life, a financial planner isn't always the first financial professional they come into contact with. Many times people might meet a CPA as their first financial professional. In fact, this is probably one of the more common financial professionals that people have. Sometimes it's a life insurance agent or some other insurance broker, maybe for property and casualty insurance or private health insurance, maybe. Sometimes it's a stockbroker, or maybe it truly was a financial planner or financial advisor. All these professionals have different areas of expertise and serve different functions to the people that work with them. Except for maybe your friend, neighbor, or gym buddy who doesn't really have much expertise at all. Too often we meet people who come to us and we ask them why they made a very important financial decision that we're now helping them undo or fix. And it's because their neighbor told them to do it. I cannot stress enough that every single person and family we've ever met in the course of doing business has a different situation than all of our other families or clients. And it's very likely that your neighbor doesn't know enough about your situation to give you good sound advice on big decisions to make with your money. This is probably one of the more dangerous things that we hear. You might also be wondering the difference between an advisor and a planner. Most often, a planner is a financial professional who should be approaching your situation from a complex or a comprehensive field of view. An advisor is usually a little bit more specialized. Maybe they provide a singular funnel of advice. But a lot of people in our industry use these terms interchangeably. In a little bit, we're going to shed some more light on the difference between these two terms. But really, the point we want to make here is to beware of taking advice from professionals outside of the expertise they're paid for. A CPA may not always know the best things to do with your investment portfolio. Maybe they have experience managing their own portfolio, but they don't know what's right for you. I once met with an advisor. I was learning about his business, and I asked him if he knew how to help his clients with Social Security. And he said, yeah, I know what the answer is. They can file for it as early as 62. So I tell them all to do it. Well, I can tell you right now, a lot of our clients have situations where that would have greatly harmed their ability to maximize their income in retirement. Or how about when you receive a statement from anywhere where you may have an investment account, and at the bottom they say that they're not tax advisors, they can't give you tax advice. And if you're making a big investment decision, that you need to consult with a tax advisor, not the person who's making the decision that causes those tax consequences. These are just a few things to be wary of when working with financial professionals. So how can you distinguish a good planner from a bad one? I would say that these three items you could really use as an overlay to any kind of service or professional that you work with. And these are core values, principles that we live by here in our office. Number one is transparency. They are very clear about how they're compensated, and they're not scared to tell you. And they're very clear about their expertise. It's what we just talked about. In our office, if we don't know the answer to something, we go and find it. We help our clients do that research. The next thing is experience. Especially with a financial advisor or planner, it's very important to know that they have a variety of expertise and that they understand how all the elements of your financial plan are connected and can affect each other. And lastly, but sometimes maybe most importantly, they give advice and education rather than selling products. Offering unbiased, customized advice is so important. And it's their intention to educate you and create a plan that fits you. A lot of folks, unfortunately, get sold to rather than educated on the things that are right for them. A simple way I describe this to a lot of people is it's my job to share with you the pros and cons of this recommendation we're making and help you arrive at the solution that gives you the highest probability of success. People who get sold to, unfortunately, are sometimes working with somebody who's strictly motivated by how they stand to gain financially from that transaction. So what's the gold standard? The gold standard in our eyes is someone who's a fiduciary. A fiduciary, by definition, has to do what's in your best interest at any given time. That means that if your life drastically changes tomorrow and you already had a plan in place, and now all of a sudden you're in an assisted living home, your advisor should be taking, if they're a fiduciary, should be taking proactive measures to adapt your plan to meet this new lifestyle and the new goals you have. They should also be approaching your situation from a holistic planning perspective. That's what we're talking about in this graphic over here. The best financial planners are addressing all of these things in this graphic: goals and concerns, income planning, investment management, tax management, healthcare and insurance, and legacy planning. The certified financial planner designation is kind of the most sought after designation in our industry. I can attest to the fact that it's the hardest test I've ever taken in my life. And it's a really good standard to look for when working with a planner. And lastly, ongoing plan management. Another story that I really hate to hear is when somebody started working with an advisor and they haven't talked to him for 2, 3, or even 4 years. It makes me nervous. A holistic planner can create a comprehensive plan for you as opposed to just an investment strategy. A lot of advisors we meet are focused just on investment management. This holistic approach that you see here was once only reserved for just very ultra wealthy people. Picture some of the most distinguished wealthy people we know when they go to have a review with their financial professional. If you could imagine that it's not just an investment advisor, but it's an attorney, it's a CPA, it's business advisors. It's literally a conference table of multiple professionals in their life that one person is helping coordinate for them. Well, as it turns out, a lot of people in middle class America need those same services. And that should really be the gold standard when you're searching for a financial planner to have in your corner. We as advisors have access to a lot of the same tools and solutions, but it's really important that you have a leader, and you need a plan that grows and adapts with you as your life and goals change. Here's just a bigger blown up version of that graphic if you wanted to snap a photo of it. I'll give a quick overview of each one of these. So goals and concerns, this is what Nick talked about. A good financial plan really starts with evaluating these items. What are you trying to solve for? What are the things that keep you up at night? And if we had these certain things under wraps, what would it take to get you to the point where you're living a confident and worry-free retirement? Income planning. This is a very underserved area in financial planning. Most advisors are focused on how fast they can grow investments. And while that's important, income planning is a totally different animal. Tax efficiently distributing income that lasts as long as you may live, that's a really tough equation to solve for. Investment management. We all know what this is. You need to grow your assets enough to get to retirement, and then you need to protect them well enough with a good strategy to last them throughout your retirement. Tax management. Tax management, a lot of us thinking today, this year, last year, what can I do to lower my tax bill this year? Well, a far greater risk than that is where taxes are 10, 15, or 20 years from now. And what steps are you taking to proactively reduce those future taxes on your plan? Healthcare and insurance. This is one of the most ever-changing items in financial planning, maybe next to tax management. What happens when you hit Medicare age? How does your income impact your Medicare cost? What does it cover? Long-term care planning. What's the likelihood that you fall victim to it? And would your legacy be devastated if you did need assisted living? And then lastly, legacy planning. Wills, trusts, powers of attorneys, beneficiary planning, tax efficient transfer of wealth to your beneficiaries. All these things are really important to get right and to have someone helping you coordinate. A very important consideration is how these professionals are compensated. We're going to go in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes, but this is a really good broad overview. A fee only basically means that a flat fee is charged either one time, annually, or they assess fees hourly. Most commonly, though, it's a percentage charged on assets that advisor manages for you. Percentage of assets, like I said, is most common, but you won't find a lot of advisors in this space who advise you on all elements of your plan outside of investments. Flat fee planners, the ones who do hourly, flat, or one-time fees, usually will get into more details of your entire plan, but they have less involvement moving forward and less of a stake in your personal success on an ongoing basis. Commission only. Commission only, these are advisors that generally are not fiduciaries. They also lack a solid vested interest in monitoring your progress towards financial goals. Generally, this has to do with transactional security trading like stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, or these are the types of advisors who strictly sell life insurance or annuities. Those products, all in and of themselves, are not bad things. It's just that the way that these advisors are compensated don't necessarily put them on the same side of the table as you when making decisions on your behalf. And lastly, fee and commission. This is where you'll find a lot of holistic planners like us. The primary way we're compensated is a percentage of assets that we manage for our clients, and if we help them implement any insurance or annuity solutions as a part of their comprehensive plan. This is where it's very important to make sure that you have advisors transparently disclosing their fees to you.
So we wanted to share with you red flags that you want to watch out for in evaluating an advisor that you may be vetting to hire, or maybe you've had one for many years, and just things that maybe you don't know what you don't know. So a few of them would be, make sure that you're reviewing your portfolio and your overall financial plan at least annually. That's at a minimum. There should be regular contact. They should have more contact with you than just once a year. They should keep you up to date more frequently, but you should sit down and do a very comprehensive review at least annually. If anyone emphasizes a silver bullet solution, like, hey, I've got this magic black box of the way to invest, and I've got algorithms that tell me when to buy and sell, doesn't mean that investment plan is bad, but it should be considered within the entire context of your plan. And maybe it's a foundational piece of your investment portfolio, but it shouldn't be the end all be all. Or maybe there's an insurance product. We see this with insurance salesmen, that everybody gets the same annuity, regardless of situation, age, you name it. Market timing. So if someone is selling you on their services and telling you that they're better at market timing than the guy down the street, it's probably a big red flag. Trying to time the market effectively time and time again is virtually impossible. It's more about building a strategy and a philosophy and an overall plan that works throughout time and addresses negative markets and secures the money that you need sooner rather than later, rather than riding the ups and downs of the market. But we all need long-term growth. We all could live to be 100 years old or even older. You need to make sure that you've got investments that grow and you're not trying to time the market. We could tell you story after story of people that have tried to time the market, clients that maybe didn't listen to us, which luckily is rare, but it does happen every now and then. And they end up harming themselves. Or advisors. I used to work with an advisor years ago that's been trying to time the market since the crash of '87. He's been around a long time, and he claims he timed that one. I was only 10 back then, so I didn't work with him then, but he's been trying to ride that for the last 40 plus years. Providing advice outside of their expertise, that can be harmful. We just met with someone recently that their estate planning attorney, who I know of him, he does great work, also sold them a life insurance policy. It's a bit of a conflict of interest in my mind, but also he didn't consider the entire plan, because in fact, this client didn't have an entire plan. And we're working on rounding that out now. So if someone's reaching outside their area of expertise, that's a red flag. You always want to take into account the costs, and we'll dive right into that in a second, to give you just some idea of what is a fair cost to pay for professional advice. But also, Tim mentioned this, lack of transparency. If someone won't tell you all the costs, that's a huge red flag. Give you a quick example. My mother-in-law years ago worked as a trust officer at a bank, and she had her money there, and she asked me to review it one day. And I sat down with her and I started looking at it, and I said, wow, it looks like you're paying about 2% a year. She said, well, no, that's not true. The advisor here that works at the bank told me I only pay 1%. And I walked her through it and I said, well, you're paying him 1% as the advisor, but all of these mutual funds you own have an average expense of about 1% as well. And she said, I never knew that. I can't believe he's been telling me all these years, my total cost is 1%. She said, I've been telling our clients the same thing, and I've been essentially misleading them. So this is very common, that advisors only tell you what they're getting paid. They're not telling you the entire cost of what you're paying for your entire portfolio and your entire plan. So ask a lot of questions about internal costs or hidden costs. Then we can't talk about red flags or unethical advisors without talking about Bernie Madoff, the poster child. Bernie, as you probably all recall, was arrested back in December of 2008. He defrauded thousands of Americans out of over $20 billion. I shouldn't say just Americans. I believe he did this internationally. We've heard the number as high as 65 billion. That's actually not completely accurate, because he printed statements showing people that they had these massive returns, but in reality, he took 20 billion from them. The good news is that $14.4 billion has been recovered since then and paid back to the victims. The other side of that, there's a law firm that's been working on that since 2008, and I'm sure they've done a lot of great work. But they've made almost $1 billion. I believe it's well over $800 million on their work. So in the end, it wasn't as bad as we thought, because they were able to recover a lot of money. It was a terrible situation. But how do you know if someone is like Bernie Madoff, or what are the red flags? Well, first and foremost, where are the assets held? He custodied his clients' assets. So they wrote a check to him and his firm. He took them in, put them into the firm's bank account, and then printed statements right from the firm and made up numbers on the statements. Just about every advisor out there these days has a separate custodian where the funds are held and statements are printed from. For example, we work with TD Ameritrade. That's our main custodian. Clients' monies go to TD Ameritrade. We don't take ownership of them, and their statements are printed at TD Ameritrade. And so there's these checks and balances, so that you kind of separate church and state in a way. You know, your funds are at this large custodian, and there's these checks and balances, so that you're not just giving your money to somebody that you're not quite sure what they're doing with it. All right. And then when we talk about costs, so there's a lot here, and we'll sum this up because I think we're bumping up against time here, and we want to have some time for questions. There are internal costs, like I mentioned, in mutual funds and ETFs. They can range from 0.01% to 10%. Now, 10% is on the very far end, and this cost reimburses or pays the mutual funds and their portfolio managers and their team and their company for the work that they do. But it's an internal cost. You have to read a prospectus to find out what you're actually paying. It's not itemized on your statement. And then we have various commissions on products and insurance and annuities. There are investment platform costs. There are a lot of professional money managers out there that have a platform cost in addition to the internal costs. Various trading costs. And then, of course, we have the advisor financial planner cost, which ranges from about 1/3% to 2%. I would say the average, though, for advisors across the industry is right around 1. We often see a little higher than that. Not very often do we see it lower than that. Typically, the more money you have, you can get breakpoints and that advisor fee can come down. But ultimately, what's the industry average and what's fair? When we factor in the industry average at 1% for the advisor cost, and the internal expenses of mutual funds, exchange traded funds, other investments that might be in that portfolio, it averages about 1 to 1.5%. So you're really in that 2 to 2.5% range. Here at Vantage Point, we still think that's high, but that's what you'd see in the industry average. If you encounter anyone that's a lot higher than that, or they have investments that have outrageous internal expenses, that's a red flag, and I dive into that more thoroughly. Tim, I don't think we can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I guess I was muted. So yeah, there's really just not a need for advisors to pursue these high cost investments. In fact, it'd be great if you had an advisor that made a blanket statement that said, hey, it's one of our missions to pursue low cost investment solutions for you. And that story that Nick told earlier about his mother, this is the cost right here that was being disclosed to her. Nothing else was really being disclosed to her. So keep that in mind as a question to ask. And in the spirit of questions to ask your planner or advisor, we wanted to leave you with a list that maybe isn't all the questions that you should have in your back pocket to ask an advisor, but at least a really good start at either maybe you're interviewing an advisor, you want to do a little check and balance on the current advisor you work with, or you're looking to make a change, whatever it may be. This is a great list of questions to start with asking your planner. And one question I know we don't have on here is, are low cost a mission of yours for your clients? I would definitely consider that important. But we talked about this with Bernie Madoff. Where do you custody assets? If it's not a big name that you've seen on the news or that you trust, it might be a good reason to look the other way. Who will I be working with at your firm? Is it a team? Is it just you? Do you have other people to support you? Do you have a succession plan in place? What happens if you are disabled and you can no longer serve my needs as your client? Who steps in? How often will we meet to review my plan? In our office, we typically meet with our clients a few times a year, and we're in touch even more frequently than that. It just depends on where they're at in life and the things that we're solving for. You need to make sure that the cadence you meet with your advisor is something comfortable for you. How can I claim my maximum Social Security benefit? Social Security is a very underserved planning area in people's financial plans. It's important that your advisor knows how to implement this into your plan. How much will I pay for Medicare and what doesn't it cover? How will my retirement income affect my Medicare costs? The two go hand in hand. It's someone's doing you a disservice if they're not planning for both. How can I reduce my tax burden, not only now, but looking to the future too, if tax rates truly do go up in a big rate? How can I create an estate plan that works for my family now and after my death? What about the tax efficiency of my estate plan? Are my beneficiaries going to be burdened with huge tax bills? How can an insurance policy work for me other than just a death benefit? Insurance can be a very powerful investment if implemented into a financial plan correctly. What experience and credentials do you have? Have you pursued any designations? What are your licenses? What's your expertise? What are you better at than any other advisor? Can you describe all costs that you charge your clients or that they might incur in the course of doing business with you? And lastly, will you coordinate with the other financial professionals in my life? This is a really good starting point, a good rap sheet of questions to hold your current planner accountable or to bring with you to interviewing new planners that you're pursuing.
How should you really research them, before you meet with them? Ask for and review their brochure or ADV. These are disclosure documents that every financial advisor or financial planner has to produce through our regulators. Gives you a good background on the advisor as well as the firm. If they're a certified financial planner, look them up. Let's make a plan.org. On that site, you can find financial planners in your area. Plus, you can look up an existing one if you have a name. Review their licenses, background, and disclosures through BrokerCheck or investor.gov. If you just Google BrokerCheck, it'll pop right up. You can type in their name, the location, or you can type in a firm. Very easy to see where they've worked, how long they've been in the industry, what licenses they hold. Do they have any disclosures, client complaints, lawsuits? It's just a great, quick, easy way to research them. Google them. Just type in their names, their firm. Go visit their website. This is probably great advice in this day and age. If a company doesn't have a website or a good website that works, that's a big red flag. Attend an educational event presented by the firm. It makes a lot of sense. You can get a taste for how they work, the things that they offer, the knowledge that they might have if they offer those things. If they don't, I would ask them why. Because they should be educators, they should be teaching, they should be helping people and their clients learn more about the ever-evolving changes to investing, the economy, overall planning. Survey your close friends and family if they have advisors, somebody they trust. The thing that we do find sometimes is that sometimes people really trust the advisor they have. By the way, we do a lot of educational events in the community. We meet people that have advisors and they just come in to get some questions answered. And they don't know what that advisor should actually be doing for them. They're good people. The advisors are 97% have clean records and are ethical and do good work. But do they do everything holistically and help you with all the things that you need? And ask the advisor for client references. Obviously, advisors are going to give you the list of their best clients, but you can tell, whether it's, calling references for a job candidate. You can just tell if there's something not quite right there. But also you can pick their brain of, hey, what does the service look like? How long have you been with them? What is it like to interact with them? And maybe you can ask them questions that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable asking the advisor just yet. So there are a lot of ways you can research these advisors, their firms, to figure out if you're meeting with someone that might be a good fit for you.
And if you're feeling bold, ask them if they have any crabgrass in their lawn.
And what they did about it. And
exactly.
Report back to me. So we mentioned earlier the strategy session. We'd love to see all of you in our office if you have some questions. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking for a financial planner. Maybe you just have a question about Social Security, about Medicare, about investing, about inflation. It doesn't matter. Come in for 30 or 60 minutes. Is it worth 30 or 60 minutes to maybe learn something that could impact your life positively for the next 30 years? We're happy to share our knowledge that we've accumulated over these for me, I'm in my 22nd year, I believe. Tim's in his 8th, 9th year. Yep. So we have a lot of experience. So we're happy to share that and help people in our community. I believe you're going to get an email from Barry with links to our calendar. So you can get time on our calendar and we'd love to help out.
And we're totally flexible too. If you're more comfortable meeting over Zoom, when you reserve a spot on our calendar with this link, it actually automatically books a Zoom meeting. So if you like that, you prefer that, that's great. But we'd also love to see you if you're comfortable coming in. And I really echo what Nick said. It's a no pressure meeting. And we're just really happy to be a part of this series for the Wheaton Library and offer the extension of this course to you to, come in and meet with us for a little bit. So I applaud you for attending tonight. And, thanks for showing up and listening to our spiel.
Hey, Barry, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, and it is a great time just to remind people that if you would like to have a question answered by our presenters, go ahead and open up your Q&A and type that in. Someone is asking about um, the names on the statements sometimes that we receive from the bank or from some investment that we have. They ask, so, so are you saying that there might be a name on the statement that the person receives, and that person is taking a fee from the account, even if maybe that person never gets in touch with you as the investor? Is that really something that takes place? Maybe we're not aware of?
It depends. It really depends on how your account is set up, the product that you have. But those are questions you should ask, because we find many times people just don't know if it's an internal expense of that investment product, if it's a fee that the advisor's charging, a fee that that firm or custodian's charging. It's great to call. There should be a number on there for that advisor or that firm or that custodian. Just call and ask questions. That's all you need to do. Get all the data and then determine if it's still a right fit for you.
I can also speak to that a little bit. One of the common things that we see here are when people have an employer sponsored retirement plan. So these come in many different fashions: 401ks, 403bs, 457bs, 401as. There's a lot of them. And sometimes, depending on where you have this retirement plan, a advisor is issued as your representative with that retirement plan administrator. A lot of times, these are the lowest touch advisors in our industry. They're kind of put on there as a formality. It's a regulatory thing that's sometimes mandated by the plan, but a lot of times they're not proactively reaching out to you to talk about your other financial goals. But also, the fees are typically nominal. So if you do have that representative on there, it's usually something low, but it can be high. And the cost can especially go up after you stop working at that company and if you maintain that plan. So that's definitely something to watch out for if you have one of those retirement plans.
Okay, thank you. And also, you mentioned a couple of times this certified planner designation or certified financial planner designation. And I think Tim, you mentioned that there was an exam associated with that. Could you tell us just a little bit more about what that entails and maybe why we would look for that?
Absolutely. So the certified financial planner designation is the best way I can draw a metaphor for it. It's like a master's degree in being a financial planner. It's a pretty labor intensive course. So there are 8 to 9 different modules that encompass all aspects of personal financial planning. Basically, everything we talked about: estate planning, income planning, retirement planning, insurance, healthcare, just about every single thing you can imagine. So you have to pass these 8 or 9 different courses, and you can kind of pace it out at your own convenience. And then the actual exam to sit for to get the designation, it's technically pass fail. They don't even tell you like what your percentage of questions right were. And I think on average, it's got about a 50% or less pass rate. It fluctuates year by year. It depends on what's going on in the world and how they kind of evaluate their questions. But certified financial planners are really your best bet at getting that holistic approach. When even if as a CFP, they're operating under that commission only structure where they're not necessarily a fiduciary, just by way of having their CFP designation, they have to take a fiduciary standard as an overlay to all the advice that they provide their clients. They just operate under a different set of ethics, a different set of standards, and it really is, to use a phrase from our presentation, the gold standard of working with an advisor.
Right, thank you. It sounds really rigorous and like it would provide a very wide breadth of expertise. That's great, thank you.
I'm
And
very
just
happy I only had to take that test once.
Uh, and just one more thought while we give people a chance to enter a question if they would like to. On that holistic plan graphic, there were all those different segments. I'm wondering if you can just explain a little bit more what you mean by income planning.
Yeah, so I can grab that one, Tim. So income planning really comprises a lot of different things. So really when people need it the most is when they're retiring or about to retire or retired. When we're working, we get it. We all want to work and make as much money as we can. Some people have to work multiple jobs, unfortunately, but you're saving and you're collecting your paycheck. Well, when you get to retirement, it's figuring out the best way to generate your income year after year. Not only generating your income that you need to live on, but making sure that it's tax efficient and will last you as long as you do. So it's a very scary time to move from working into retirement. While the majority of people are very excited and they can't wait for that day, it's still very nerve wracking. And I don't care how much money people have, with very little to millions and millions of dollars, people are very nervous about it. And so it's really analyzing, what is your Social Security benefit? Do you have pensions? Do you have IRAs and 401ks? Do you have savings in the bank? Do you have brokerage accounts? Looking at all of these and making sure that you coordinate them properly to generate the amount of income you need to live on, factor in taxes, factor in inflation, and make sure that your money doesn't run out. So there's a lot to building that income plan properly. And most people want guaranteed income as much as they can. Social Security is one of the best out there. Company pensions can be fantastic. There are different investment products through insurance carriers, whether it's annuities or life insurance, that can help provide that. But those are just a couple pieces of the overall income plan and that pie that you put together.
We used to ask people quite a bit, do you think that taxes are more or less complicated in retirement? And a lot of people think that they're easier. In fact, that's what they've planned for their whole lives. But as we know as advisors that it's a far different balancing act than while you're working. And it's really important to get it right. It keeps more money in your pocket over the long haul if you get it right.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. Yeah, that really helps clarify that. All right, well, I don't see any other questions, so we will close for tonight. Just a reminder, I will be sending out an email later tonight with a link to the website from our presenters tonight, as well as the links for how to schedule a meeting, one of those free consultation meetings with them, as well as some other goodies in there, like the links to some other financial programs that the library has recorded in the past. This program is recorded, and so if you are watching this recording at a later date and would like those links, I would be happy to send those to you. Just email me at ce@wheatonlibrary.org. That's CE for community engagement at wheatonlibrary.org. And again, I'd be happy to send those links out to you. So again, thank you so much to everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you so much to our presenters. Take care, everybody. Stay healthy, and we hope to see you again soon. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.